What's going on, everybody? JR from JrZ CarZ here, and today I was going to be doing rear brakes on this Odyssey, but we were shipped the wrong parts. So instead, I might just have to show you this. All right, so what we got here is a 1973 classic Beetle. This is not the Super Beetle. One way you can tell is by looking at the front windshield. If it's a flat windshield, it's just a standard Beetle. If the edges over here are curved, like curved towards the back of the car, you would know that it's a Super Beetle. All right, so you can take a look. I mean, it's in relatively good shape. I mean, it was a Florida car at one point. It's family owned, right? So I remember this from, you know, way back in the day, going down to Florida, visiting my grandparents. It stayed in the family, so it's a great little car. I mean, it's all original. This has not been restored at any point. It's you know, like I said, it's kind of a family heirloom here. Oh, of course, anybody who knows anything about Volkswagen Beetles here, and the classic ones, is the sound, right? The sound you get out of these tailpipes. What people don't know is that the sound is not actually from the engine. The sound is from these exhaust tips that are on there. That's where you get that little, I don't know exactly what they call it, but it's that little like tweeting sound that comes out of the tailpipes. If you were to take these two off, you wouldn't have that sound anymore, right? So, like I said, it's in relatively decent shape. I've seen a hell of a lot worse. I mean, I've seen some where they've had, you know, huge rust holes in the pillars here. You know, obviously you see some of the fade on the paint here. We got some pretty good patina going on. They have all of these half moon covers here, so that's a good thing. A little bit of rust. You can see a little bit of rust here. There's a little rust hole in the bottom. The heat channels, both on the driver's side and the passenger side, do have a little bit of rust in it. The running boards are a little crusty too. But honestly, for a 73 Beetle, it's not that bad. All the chrome is in pretty decent shape. You can see here, this is where your gas filler is. And I'll show you where that leads into the tank in a few. But all the chrome, like I said, is in pretty good shape here. Up in the front here, you see a little bit of rust on there, but that's nothing that you couldn't scuff out of there and polish that up and make it look a little bit nicer. All right, so one of the cool things here, it actually still has this trim down the nose that leads down to where your where the hood would pop open. Now, I'll show you how to get into this in a little bit, but you can see here, this is the button that would pop it and would come up. But you can't just open it from the outside. You have to open it from the inside. So why don't we start there, and I'll show you how to get into those, and we'll see what it looks like under there, being that that hasn't been opened for quite some time. Okay, so coming over to the passenger side here, if you go into the glove box, this is how you have to lift the what we would call the hood, which is not exactly where the engine is. You would end up opening the glove box. You see all the this is like a cardboard. Basically, the inside of the glove box is just basically a cardboard. But right there on the left hand side, that's where you have your little handle that will release the lock that's on the hood on the outside. All right, so you would take this, it's broken here, so basically what we had to do was just take a little something, prop it up underneath here, just like that, so it'll hold it in place. And then when you pull this lever down, it releases the lock on the hood. So being that it's been a long time, let's go do that right now and see what we find underneath the hood of the car. And in case you're wondering here, this is what your max load is. That's what your gross vehicle weight is, and what they suggest for the PSI in the tires. All right, so this is the first time we're opening up this hood here in probably about like 8 years. So let's take a look and see what we find. Oh, rats, mice. They've been making their way in here. And what are you going to do? This is what happens when the car sits for a little bit. So, yeah, we'll just clean it out. Not a big deal. But as you can see in here, you know, it's VW special here. You have your spare tire in the front, and this is one of the old bias plies. This is awesome. It's an old bias ply. Probably one of the original. It might even be the original spare to this car. Yeah, we'll take a look and see around here a little bit more. We have the liner, which is kind of beat up at this point, but underneath the liner here you have your gas tank that's inside. So let's see if we can clean this out a little bit and see what it looks like, see what the gas tank looks like. All right, so now that we got the liner out of the way here and cleaned all that mess out, you can take a look and see what you got in here. All right, so you got your gas tank. That's right in the center here. It's actually in really good shape. I don't see any visible rust on it, which is really good. Usually these tanks are fairly good, but I've seen a lot of them rust too. You got your gas filler tube over there. The couplers look like they're in good shape. There's really no rust at all under here, which is really good. So, I mean, we just had a really bad rainstorm, and this is all filled up in here. So, any of the debris you see in there is pretty much just from it overflowing on that. But can't do anything about that. But as far as the relays, you can see all the relays in here. Right, it looks like it's all in good shape, even though we saw all the mouse droppings and the nests and everything. We were looking through the wiring here, and the wiring looks like it's all in good shape, that nothing was eaten through. So that's another good thing too. You can see up in here, you have your speaker, and then over in here, let's get you down there. Over in here, you have your speedometer. There's your speedometer cable that runs down into the driver's side wheel. All right, so the speedometer is attached to that one wheel over here. So I think that covers pretty much everything under the hood of the car. Now let's take a look at the rear. All right, here we go. I'm gonna open this up, check out Little Miss Fast and Furious over here. 46 horsepower of pure German engineering. It's a great engine. I mean, they really are good engines. They're super reliable. They're easy to work on. Like I said, the car hasn't started in a couple years, so we're going to be doing another video, basically, will it start? We got this all cleaned out here, but you can see in here, you have your heat shroud in the back. And then this is where you would have the heat tubes that would go down here, and you would have this here. Being that I already said this was a Florida car, they removed these and capped them off because obviously in Florida you don't need the heater like that. So they capped them off. They didn't need them. But like I said, it's a pretty basic engine, single barrel carb, 46 horsepower. And like I said, we're going to be doing Will It Start? So definitely subscribe to the channel and give it a like here, because once that video comes out, you'll be the first one to see it. Okay, so now we're going to go to the inside of the car. So, all right, so the insides, the seats were a little bit beat up. They put some covers on them. You can get covers for it pretty easy. Not that big a deal, but honestly, the car's, it's a 1973, so what do you expect? It's not going to be in pristine condition. All right, so the one thing that it does have here, you can kind of see, is it does have the typical VW rot down in the heater channels down here. However, I've looked underneath the car, and it's pretty much just confined to the heater channels. It's got the running boards. The running boards are crispy too. But the floors in this thing are actually in really, really good condition. Like I've said a couple times, I think already, it's a Florida car, so it actually was kept away from the salt water and everything. So it was kept in pretty good shape. right? See the pedals down here. Coming into inside of the car here. It's a tight squeeze for a big guy like me. But that's basically all you have. You have your speedometer and you have your odometer. You don't have anything special in here. Right? You have your shift pattern. Wonderful AM/FM radio. Your lights are up here. This is where you'll turn your lights on. And these are your air vents. So you would turn these to get your fresh air on both sides. Obviously your hazards over here. Pull those. And see, the interesting thing with this car is your blinkers, right? You only have one single light there. So whether you turn the wheel, if you turn the blinkers left or you turn the blinkers right, it's only going to show you that one. So you don't know what blinker you have on unless you actually look at the stock. I'll go ahead and turn those off. We'll bring it down to the shifter here. So it's a 4-speed. Nice wooden shifter here. Right, this is the original wooden shifter. So what you'll notice, let me get in here, is when you go to shift the car, you have first, second, third, fourth. And then what you have to do for reverse is you push down and then you pull left and back to you. And then that's reverse. All right. And then you hear that pop that actually puts it back into neutral. So you could shift through the gears again. Now, one common thing to go wrong is down in here where the tube is, there's a plastic bushing that likes to go bad in here. It's kind of a pain to get to. The part's like $4, something like that. So if your shifter starts getting a little sloppy, that's one thing that I would look at. All right, so moving on to the back here. This back seat, it's nice and thick, big and thick. If you pull it up, you can actually see the horsehair batting that they have underneath it to put between the spring and the seat cover, which is pretty neat. The car definitely still has that old car smell because of this. And anybody who's owned or driven in one of these before knows exactly what I'm talking about, what kind of smell it is. Some people hate it, some people like it, but it's an interesting smell, and it's definitely one you'll never forget. I remember riding around in this car, and that's the one thing I always remembered, right? So underneath the seat in the back here, what you have is you have your battery on the passenger side. So you have your ground straps, you have your positive, right? So as you saw with the sloppy shifter in the front, this is the tube I was talking about, which leads into the back here. Now there's another spot in the back here. You would take that cover off, and underneath there's a little box that has bushings in there too, and that attaches into the transmission. That's another thing that can end up going bad, where you get those sloppy shifts. Again, the part is extremely cheap. That's a little bit easier to get to, and it's a little bit easier to fix. And there's upgrades out there in the aftermarket too that will prevent that from going bad in the future too. So we'll just lay that back down like that real quick. Headliner's falling down. It is what it is. What can you do? But all in all, the car itself really doesn't have that much in the way of rust, except for, like I said, those heat channels down in the bottom here. Some spots of rust over here. This is a common thing that I also see too, is like right in the corner, right in the back here. I see rust holes too. And I'll tell you something, there's nothing more satisfying than hearing the thud of a German door shutting, especially on these Beetles, man. Take a listen. I could sit here and do this all day. Best sound in the world. Okay, so here's a neat little safety feature that they put in these cars. Obviously, it predates power locks and things like that. So what they did is they put this in here so you can't lock your keys in this car, right? So if you try to lock the door, you push the button down, you push the door shut, that pops back up. So instead what you have to do, let's open this door again. You push the door down, push the door lock down, and you have to pull the handle on it to keep the door locked. See, now the plunger stays down and you can't get back into the car without the key. All right, everyone, so that's the end of the walk around of the Volkswagen Beetle. So if you like this car, do me a favor, hit that like button, share and subscribe to the channel, because I am going to have another video, a will it run video. Do you think it will? We'll see. But you're going to find out in the next video. I hope everyone's staying safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.